The Cripple. There was once a wise man, and before his passing he called together his sons and family and commanded them to water trees. They would also be permitted to do other types of work, but they should make a special effort to water the trees. The wise man died and left behind his sons, one of whom could not walk. He could stand, but could not walk. His brothers would support him, and they provided him so much that he had money to spare. Now this son saved up the extra money until he reached a certain sum. Then he said to himself, "Why should I accept charity from them? Better that I start to do some business." Even though he was not able to walk, he decided to hire a carriage, an escort, and a driver, and travel with them to Leipzig, a city in East Germany, well known for its trade and fairs. They would be able to do business even though he could not walk. When his family heard this, they approved and said, "Why should we have to support him? It's good that he should have a trade." They lent him more money in order that he could conduct his trading. He hired a carriage, an escort, a driver, and set out. When they came to an inn, the escort said they should stay there the night. But he did not agree. They tried to convince him, but he would stubbornly set. So they went onward. They became lost in the forest and were ambushed by robbers. These men had become robbers because of a famine that had been at one time. A man had come to their city and announced, "He who wants food, come to me." And several people gathered about him. He acted with cleverness, rejecting anyone he judged that he did not need. To one he would say, "You would be fitting as a craftsman." To another he would say, "You should work on a grist mill." He chose only intelligent people and went with them to the forest. There he said that they should become robbers, being that they were at a crossroads with roads leading to Leipzig, Breslov, and other cities. Traders would pass there so they could rob them and amass money. They fell upon the son who could not walk and his companions. Now the carriage driver and the escort who were able to escape did so, but the son was left behind on the carriage. The thieves came and took the chest with the money and asked him, "Why are you sitting?" He answered them that he was unable to walk. So they stole the chest and the horses, and he was left on the carriage. Meanwhile, the escort and the driver escaped to where they escaped. They had unpaid debts in their hometown, so they reasoned, "Why should we go back? We could end up in chains. Better to stay here and be an escort and carriage driver here." As for the son, as long as he had the dried cracker bread that he had brought from home, he ate it. When his supply ran out and he had nothing to eat, he pondered what to do, and then threw himself from the carriage to eat grass. He slept alone, frightened in the open field. His strength waned until he could no longer even stand, but could only crawl. He would eat the grass surrounding him until he finished all the grass within his reach. At that point, he would crawl forward a ways and eat there. He ate grass in this manner for some time. One time he came to a patch of grass, the likes of which he had not eaten before. It attracted him, for he had been eating grass a long time and had never seen grass like this. He decided to pull it up from the root, and under the root there was a precious stone. It was square, and each side had different magical powers. On one side was written that the one who grasped this side would be transported to the place where day and night come together, and where the sun and moon come together. When he uprooted the grass which grew over the stone, he happened to grasp this side. It transported him, and he became to the place where day and night are brought together. He looked about, and behold, it was the place where the sun and moon joined together. He heard the sun and the moon talking together. The sun was complaining to the moon that there is a tree with many branches and fruit and leaves. Every single branch, fruit, and leaf has a unique power. One is effective in bringing children, another for wealth, another for curing this disease, and another for curing another disease. Each one effective for a different aim. This tree needed watering, and if it were watered, it would be very effective. But not only is it not being watered, but because I shine on it, I am drying it out. The moon answered and said, "You think you have problems? Let me tell you about my problems. It so happens that I have 1,000 mountains. Surrounding these are another 1,000, and it is a place of demons. And those demons have chicken feet, and they do not have power in their feet, so they draw power from my feet. And because of this, I do not have any power in my feet. I have a dust which can heal my feet, but the wind comes and takes it away." The sun answered, "Is that all you are worried about? I'll tell you of a cure. There is a road that splits into several roads. One is a road of the righteous, even the righteous on this road. With every step he takes, dust from that road is spread under him, so that every step he takes, he treads upon that dust. There is a road of the heretics. Even a heretic on this road, with every step, the dust of that road is spread under him. And there is a road of the insane. Even an insane on this road, with his every step, dust is spread, as described before. There are several such roads. And there is another road upon which walk righteous ones who accept suffering upon themselves. The wicked one leads them in chains, and they have no power in their feet. Dust from that road is spread under their feet, and they receive power in their feet. Therefore, go to that place where there is much of that dust, and your feet will be healed." The cripple heard all of this. In the midst of this, he looked on another side of the stone and saw written there that if one grasped that side, one would be taken to the place of the road that splits into several. So he grasped that side and was transported there. He began to walk on the road with the dust that brings healing to the feet, and was healed immediately. He went and took dust from each of the roads and made packets from each type of dust. The dust of the road of the righteous in one packet, and likewise the varieties of dust from each of the roads. He made each into a separate packet and took them with him. He came upon a plan and returned to the same forest where they had robbed him. Once there, he chose a tall tree which was close to the road from which the robbers went out to plunder. He took the dust of the righteous and the dust of the insane and mixed it together and spread it out on the road. Then he climbed up the tree and waited to see what would happen to them. The head robber sent out several of his men to go and plunder. And when they came to this road and stepped on the dust, this immediately became righteous. And they began to cry for their souls that they had stolen until now and had murdered several people. However, since they was mixed into the dust of the insane, they became insanely righteous and began to argue with each other. This one said, "It was because of you that we stole." And the one who accused replied, "But it was by means of you that we stole." And so on until they murdered each other. Another group was sent and the same happened. And the next time as well, until they were all murdered. The son realized that there was no one left alive except the head robber and one other. He then came down from the tree and swept the magic dust off the road and sprinkled the dust of the righteous alone. Then he went and sat up in the tree again. Now the head robber was amazed that he had sent all his men and that not one returned to him. He went himself with the other who had remained with him, and immediately upon treading that road where was sprinkled the dust of the righteous, he became a righteous man. He began to wail to his friend for his soul that he had murdered so many people and robbed so many. He began unearthing graves and returned in complete penitence and was very regretful. When the son saw that he regretted and repented so deeply, he came down from the tree. When the robber saw that he had found the man, he began to cry, "Oh, mercy on my soul. Such and such things I did. Aha, give me a way to repent." The son answered him, "Give me back the chest that you took from me." For they had kept a written account of every robbery, the day it occurred, and from whom they had robbed. The robber answered, "I'll return it immediately. I'll even give you all the hoards of goods I plundered. Just give me a way to repent." The son answered, "Your repentance is simply to go back to the town and announce, 'I am the one who made that announcement and drew many people to robbery and murdered and robbed many souls.' That is your repentance." The robber gave him all the treasures, went with him into the town, and did as he had been told. They judged in that town that due to the many murders he had committed, he should be hung, so that people see and be warned. Later the son decided to go to the 2,000 mountains mentioned before. to see what was happening there. When he came, he stood far away from the 2,000 mountains and saw that there were many thousands upon thousands and myriads upon myriads of family of demons. They multiply as do people and are very numerous. He saw their king sitting on a throne, the likes of which no mortal man would sit on. He observed that they were engaged in mocking jest. One would recount how he had hurt a baby, another how he had hurt someone's hand, yet another he had damaged a foot, and other similar jest. In the midst of this, he noticed a father and mother walking along and crying, and he asked them, "Why are you crying?" They answered that they have a son whose habit it was to go out on his own and would come back at the same time each day. But now it had been a long time that he had not returned. So they brought the couple to the king, who commanded to send messengers all over the world to find him. As they were returning, they happened to meet one who would often go together with their son. However, now he was alone. He asked them, "Why are you crying?" So they recounted the story. He answered them, "I will explain. There was an island in the sea that had been our place. Then came the king whose province the island was on and wanted to build buildings there, and he set down foundations. My friend, the lost son of the devils, said to me that we should hurt the king. So he went and took away his power. He went to many doctors, but they could not help him, so he began to go to sorcerers. One of those sorcerers knew his family, but my family he did not know. Thus he was not able to do me any harm, but his family he knew, and he caught him and tortured him severely. Upon hearing this, the parents brought their son's friend to the king, and he told his story to the king. The king said, "Return the king's power to him." He answered, "There was one among us who did not have any power, so we gave the king's power to him." The king said, "Take the power away from him and return it to the king." He answered the king, but he became a cloud. The king said that they should summon the cloud and bring him. So they sent a messenger to get him. Now the son, who at the beginning was unable to walk, and who came here and saw all this and said, "I will go to see this thing, how one of these people can become a cloud." So he followed the messenger and came to the town where the cloud was and asked the people of the town, "Why is this town so covered with this cloud?" They answered, "To the contrary, in this place there had never been a cloud there. But now for some time this cloud has covered us." Meanwhile, the messenger went and called the cloud, so it left the place. The son decided to follow them to listen to what they were saying. He heard the messenger ask, "How did you come to be a cloud here?" The other answered him, "Let me tell you a story. Once there was a wise man. The emperor of the country was an atheist, and he brought the whole country to become unbelievers. Then the wise man called together his whole family and said to them, 'You see that the emperor is an unbeliever and has drawn the whole country after him, and even a few from our family have also become unbelievers. Thus we are going to retreat to the desert in order to preserve our faith in the Lord. May he be blessed.' They agreed with the plan. Then the wise man uttered a name, that is, one of the holy names of the Lord, and brought them instantly to the desert. The desert did not find favor in his eyes, so he uttered another name and brought them to another desert, which was also not favorable to him. He uttered another name and brought them to another desert, which he found favorable. This desert was adjacent to the 2,000 mountains. The wise man went and drew a circle around his family so that no one could come near them. Now, there is a tree that if it were to be watered, there would not remain a trace of the devils. Therefore there are gods there from among our people who stand night and day, digging around the tree and preventing water from reaching it." The one listening to the story asked, "Why do they stand there night and day? Wouldn't digging one time be enough to prevent the water flowing in?" The teller of the story answered, "There are gossipers amongst us, and these gossipers go and create conflict between our king and another king. This develops into war, which causes an earthquake, and the trenches that were dug collapse, and then water can come to the tree. Therefore, they stand guard and dig constantly, and when a new king arises amongst us, they boast of all their mischief before him, and everyone is merry." This one tells of how he heard a baby and how the mother is grieving over it, and another tells some other like story, and so many other similar mockeries. As the king becomes more light-hearted, he goes and wanders about with his nobles and tries by himself to uproot the tree. Without this tree would be very good for us. He gathers up all his power of will to uproot the tree. But when he approaches the tree, it screams fiercely, and then fear falls upon him and he turns back. One time a new king was declared, and they performed all their mockeries before him, as described above, and he became very merry, and his heart swelled with vanity. He boasted he would uproot the tree entirely. So we went out wandering with his nobles. He girded his resolve powerfully and ran to the tree to uproot it completely. When he arrived, the tree let out a great scream. Fear fell on him and he turned back. He became very angry and returned. On his way, he looked and noticed some men sitting. They were the wise man and his people. He sent some of his men to abuse them, as was his custom always. When the wise man's people saw them, they became afraid. But the wise man said to them, "Do not be afraid." When the devils came near them, they could not reach them because of the circle the wise man had drawn around them. The king sent other men, and neither could they. He flew into a rage and went himself, but he could also not come near them. He asked the wise man to let him in. The wise man responded, "Since you ask, I will let you in. Since it is not honorable that the king should be unescorted, I will allow one other to come in with you." He opened an entrance for them, they came in, and then he closed the circle again. The king now asked, "How did you come to settle in my place?" Answered the wise man, "Who is to say it's your place? It's my place." The king said, "Are you not afraid of me?" He answered, "No." Then the king repeated, "Are you not afraid of me?" He extended himself and became very large, as high as the heavens. He wanted to swallow the wise man, but he responded, "Even so, I am not afraid at all. However, if I want, you will become afraid of me." He went and prayed a bit, became a great storm cloud with loud thunderings, and the thunder killed his men. All the king's nobles were killed, and only he and the companion that came into the circle with him remained. The king begged for the thunder to stop, and it stopped. The king now said to him, "Because you are such a unique man, I will give you a book with all the family of the devils. There are spiritual masters who only know of one family, and even that they do not know completely. I will give you a book with all the families, for the king has the list with all the names. Even the newly born are on the record with the king." He sent the companion who came with him to go and bring the book, so it turned out to be a wise choice to let one companion enter with the king, for if he had entered alone, who would have gone after the book? He brought the book to him. The wise man opened it and saw written there thousands upon thousands of devil families. Then the king promised him that they should never harm his family. He commanded to be brought the portraits of every member of his family. Even when a new child would be born, they should immediately bring him the child's portrait, in order that no one from the wise man's family would ever be harmed. Later on, when the wise man reached his time to pass on from the world, he called together his children and commanded them, saying, "I leave you with this book. You see that I have the power to use this book in holiness, and nevertheless, I do not use it. I simply put my trust in the Lord, may he be blessed. Neither should you use it, even if there be among you one who is able to use it in holiness. Even so, do not use it, and rather trust in the Lord." He passed away, and the book was handed down. It came to his grandson, who had the power to use it in holiness, but he had faith in the Lord, may he be blessed, and he did not use it. As the wise man had commanded, the gossipers among them tried to tempt the grandson, "Seeing that you have mature daughters and you neither support them or marry them off, make use of the book." He did not know they were trying to tempt him, and thought that his own heart was advising him thus. He then traveled to the grave of his ancestor and asked him, "You commanded in your will that we not use the book and instead to have faith in the Lord. But now my heart is drawing me to use it." The deceased wise man answered him, "Even though you have the power to use the book in holiness, better that you have faith in the Lord and not use it, and the Lord will help you." And so he did. There came a time when the king of the country wherein lived the grandson became ill. He went to doctors, but they could not heal him. But because of his intense heat of that country, medical treatments were not effective. The king commanded the Jews pray for him. Then our king said, "Seeing that the grandson has the power to use the book, and yet he chooses not to use it, we will do him a favor. He commanded me to be a cloud there, so that the king would have healing from the medicines he already took, and from medicines he is still to take." The grandson knew nothing of all of this. It was because of this that I became a cloud. All this was from the story that the cloud recounted to the messenger, while the son, who in the beginning of the story did not have power in his legs to walk, had been following after these two and listening. The cloud was brought before the king of the devils, and the king commanded that they return the power to the other king. And so they did. And then the missing son of the devil couple came back. He was in a broken state without strength, for they had tormented him exceedingly there. He was burning with resentment at the sorcerer had tormented him so, and he commanded his sons and family that they should forever haunt that sorcerer. But there were gossipers among them who went and told the sorcerer to beware, for they were waiting to harm him. He devised a scheme and called on other sorcerers who were familiar with the devil families in order to be protected. The son and his family were enraged at these gossipers who had revealed his secret. One time it happened that the family of the son and some of the gossipers served together on a shift guarding the king. The family of the son went and spoke slander about the gossipers to the king. The king executed the gossipers, and their remaining friends were enraged. So they went and created dissension between all the kings. Famine, poverty, bloodshed, and plague developed among the devils, and war broke out between all the kings. This caused an earthquake, and the earth surrounding the tree fell entirely, and the tree was totally watered. Nothing remained from the devils, and it was as if they had never been. Amen.